everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Stephanie from Magnesium Media. I am somewhere very special today. If you can see some of the rare gems behind me, I'm actually surrounded by gems. However, there is one in particular that we're going to be focusing on today. And there's somebody I really would like to introduce you to, and he's going to give us all the nitty-gritty on everything that we want to know. So come with me and let's go meet him. Let me introduce you to the man himself, Mr. Rick Tucker, owner of Tucker Performance.
And hi there.
Tucker, you've been doing this, according to your license plates, since I was 1 year old.
1978.
That's when you started?
When I started.
Wow.
That's when we started here in Las Vegas, yeah. I moved here actually 50 years ago, so I came here in 73.
From
Florida.
Oh, okay.
I was in Hollywood, Florida, but I was born in Maine.
Okay. I've always wanted to go to Maine. I've never been yet.
You got to pick those 2 or 3 days when the weather's nice. You know?
Fall foliage. I'm on my way. So for those of you who are local to Vegas and are in the car community, you probably have heard of Rick Tucker. But if you have not, okay, he does amazing restorations on all vehicles. And when I say amazing, that's an understatement. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what he does. He's going to show us one particular gem out of many that he has within multiple warehouses. So, Rick, I walk in this place and I become speechless.
Well, as do I sometimes. It's still, I've been doing this for a long time. We build custom cars, we build performance cars, we restore cars. And first I want to say it's not all about me. I started this thing, but I've got a great crew of people that bring all of this to the front. We've been blessed. In the 46 years that we've been open in Las Vegas, we have a clientele of people that are, unfortunately, I've been here long enough that some aren't with us anymore, you know, but I've got some wonderful customers. We get a chance to build some great cars. An enthusiast, but I've been all my life. Corvette guy, muscle car guy, that era of cars I really, really enjoyed. But today, we're going to show you something that was one of my favorites, has been one of my favorites. My first new Corvette was a 1969.
Okay.
And couldn't afford it back then either. My mother was nice enough to help me with the insurance, or I wouldn't have had to go.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, thanks, Mom. But it was just a wonderful year, and we've restored several, and we're going to get a chance to show you a few over the next few shows that we do here. But we're going to show you one in particular today that was probably the one that I've always wanted to build, and it's a 69 Corvette convertible that in today's parlance would be a resto mod. It has all of the good stuff on it. It's got the 69 styling, and we actually styled it really after the 69 L88 Corvette race car, of which there were only 116 made. This car, of course, you know, mimics that car in so many ways. But what we wanted to do is a step further. 1969 was an interesting year because there were more engine options available in 1969 than there were in nearly any other year. And of all of the engine options that were available, there was one called the ZL1, which was an aluminum block 427. Prior to that, the L88 cars, which I mentioned just a minute ago, were a cast iron block version of that same motor, but the aluminum block motor made that entire assembly really light, and it made the car really, really expensive. I mean, it made those cars over $10,000 in 1969. They only made 2 Corvettes, actually 3. One is a styling car that GM still has, but there were only 2 sold to the public in 1969. So the rare air was that we had pieces. We had some ZL1 engine pieces, which were really important, block and heads and intake manifold and such, to start this project with. And then it was they were really overpowered in 1969 with that engine. And now we're able to build so much more suspension and so much more drivability and so much more performance that can actually be put to the ground because of parts that are available now, that we've got a hybrid here. So We'll show you more about the car.
Oh yeah. I have a quick question for you. Now you mentioned back then over 10 grand for the specialty ones. So what was a basic Corvette back
you
then?
could buy a nicely optioned car for $6,000. I mean, a dressy car for $6,500. You know, so
Right.
a $10,000 or approaching an $11,000 car was out of most people's pocketbook.
Right.
But General Motors, because these were the L88 and the ZL1 being these, were not meant to sell to the public. They were meant to be race cars.
Okay.
GM was actually building cars that would be, they wanted them to go onto the racetrack. So
right.
a lot of these cars, they would make all of the comfort options unavailable. No radio, they were all radio delete, no power steering because of the way the engine oiling system was. And no comfort, you know, they didn't really want the car even, if you can believe this, they didn't even want them even drivable on the street. No fan shrouds, so the things actually, unless you were racing them, you couldn't keep them cool.
Oh, wow.
It was an interesting time, but this now was an opportunity to take a lot of suspension technology, a lot. This car's got everything for suspension. Now we're talking about coilover shocks, we're talking about huge brakes, we're talking about stiffening the frame on these cars because they were very torsionally weak. Without doing a roll cage because it wanted to be a street driver, and it was an act.
Okay.
The suspension and the braking system, you know, to be able to put rack and pinion steering into this car is a big deal. To be able to then, you know, what you're trying to do if you really want the car to handle is you've got to get enough tire and wheel on it that you cannot actually, the car's going to stick.
Right.
The cars back in this era, you know, were still running an F70 tire, which had a 6-inch wide tread. The tires on the back of this car right now are 335s, and they're huge. And you couldn't begin to get them under the fenders on these cars. And even if you were going to get them, like we have the car here, it would have a tremendous flare. This,
so you did this yourself?
Yeah, we made the flares, and they mimicked what were in 1969 part of the racing package that you bought over the counter from General Motors. It was called a distance kit. And because the races were running wider wheels and tires, the distance kit enabled them to cover the wheel and tire, which had to be for racing sanctioned stuff. But in those days, a 10-inch or a 12-inch wide wheel, the flare would have been about this wide. They were huge. And when we were able to move in this, with all of this new suspension technology and everything, these are 1811 and 18 12-inch wide wheels here. So 11 and 12-inch wide wheels. But we were able to move them right into the frame. We were able to narrow the front spindle to spindle so that we could actually get a big tire under the car with the big brakes and not have this huge protrusion of flare outside. We mimicked this.
A ball of perfection, if you ask me. There is everything about this car is perfect. There's not one drop of dust on this engine. Look at this. I mean, you could eat off of it, literally. Now, do you ever drive it, or does it just sit?
This car hadn't gotten a lot of use. I mean, it's loud, it's obnoxious. I've taken it to Cars and Coffee here locally. I brought it down there one time, and other than that, you know, it's kind of stays in the house and it gets shown. It's great to be able to show someone a car like this if they want us to restore a car, or even if they're just looking for, you know, what kind of shop is this?
Right.
You know, then it's great to take them out and say, you know, well, we keep a really clean shop. You know, we've been 26 years in these buildings. We try not to have dirty floors or anything.
Right.
You can't serve fresh fruit out of a dirty wagon, right?
That's true.
So that said, you know, we try that you walk a customer up to a car like this and they immediately, one or two impressions. Wow, this is really what I'm looking to have. This is a shop I want to be in. Or this may be too expensive and they want to run out the door. And we don't try to do that to people. I just want to show them how far we go here.
Right.
And we do a lot of cars that I've taken care of with customers for many, many years that aren't to this quality, or that, you know, that some people have bought, and we continue to restore the car, upgrade the car.
Right.
To approach this level. You know, so it's an interesting deal. We love performance cars. We love performance car customers, but this in general is kind of a specialty thing, you know, and the customers are too.
Right.
They're particularly, they know what they want, sometimes don't know how much it takes to get there.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to show them this, and then they
absolutely.
say, Well, this was probably, well, it was kind of expensive. You know, we won't get into numbers, but it was kind of expensive. But still, you know, this is what we can do. What's important, you know, there is that it's amazing that so many people that are enthusiasts, and it's true. You know, we've had customers that we've had for 25 years.
Right.
You know, when I first knew them, they were just starting a company.
Mm.
Now they've done really, really well with the company that they had.
Right.
You know, I might have built them a car or worked on their cars 20 or 25 years ago. Everything's gotten more and more expensive.
Of course.
For that guy that's doing really, really well, you know, they see this, I want this. Well, this is this amount of money. Okay, I get it.
Right.
You know, other people that we work with and work for that are enthusiasts would like to do this, but they don't know what it takes to get there. So they buy a car. It's easy to want to do a car backwards.
What do you mean do a car backwards?
A customer buys a car. Say, for instance, they bought a 69 Corvette that is into shape that a lot of them are in today. They're pretty rough.
Right.
Okay. And the first thing that maybe they understand mechanics, maybe they understand, you know, they've got an uncle that does soft trim or whatever, you know, so they want to start to do the engine and they want to get in and get the interior nice because that's what they're sitting in.
Okay.
And the last thing they think about is I want to paint the car. I want to fix the body. Well, everything is backwards then, because the way we do these is we take everything out of them. We take the body off the frame. We strip everything bare.
Right.
And then we take every piece. So if you start it backwards and you've got the interior done and the engine compartment done, and now you want to do the chassis, and we can't really detail under the car. We can't do stuff to this level. Then it starts to become more expensive than that customer can.
You're doubling the work.
Understand? Yeah, there's a lot more work doing it backwards. They couldn't do it the other way though.
Yeah.
At the time when they bought the car, or maybe at the time when they started the car, it's going to go the way it has to go. So we try to make everything work for everybody. I mean, I try not to get people to. I try to tell them, you know, this was how I would do this.
Right.
You know, and if they ask for options, we explain it. You know, but on a car like this, for me, there was no option. You know, I mean, we wanted to make the car the best that it could be. So over periods of, I mean, we'd collected parts for a long time. We'd done stuff for a long. The idea came to fruition. The color is another whole story I could tell you about with this car.
Color is gorgeous.
The color is not a Corvette color, and this started. My dad had a Chevelle that he bought new in 1965, and the color was called Glacier Gray.
Okay.
And it was very similar to this, and we went ahead and started looking for the formula for that 65 color and mixed it up, and it was not what we wanted it to be. And it's different now because we're shooting base coat, clear coat, we're shooting premium paint lines. We've been PPG guys for forever. I don't know if I can pump PPG, but we've used them for forever. Their paint lines are fantastic, but all of the lines work differently with this color. The original formula they had in what was called a shop line.
Okay.
It was the least expensive color packages.
Right.
And when I painted a spray out, it was dead.
Really?
And then we shot EnviroBase, which is a waterborne base coat.
Okay.
Great for today's cars because most of today's cars are shaped like a bar of soap, you know, so they want mimic the style, but we had to build the flares. Actually, we had the frame done and we had the body ready to paint, but we had to put the body on the frame, wrapped everything up so we wouldn't get anything on anything that we had finished already, and then we built these fiberglass flares over these wheels and tires to get the shape just right. But the car overall, because we've got a really well-balanced package, because so much of the suspension is lighter than what they were in these days, and the wheels and tires are lighter. We don't have a bunch of unsprung weight to deal with. An unsprung weight is the weight that actually is the wheel and tire that the springs are trying to control. If you could imagine going through a pothole, the wheel and tire goes into a pothole, but the only thing that the spring is trying to drive it into the hole.
Right.
Coming out of the hole is unsprung.
Okay.
That's, you know, so that weight, wheel and tire weight, axle weight, we minimized all of it. And the handling of this car is really superb. The cars were all 3,600 pound cars right in that vicinity. This one's different because I started with an air-conditioned car, and of course you couldn't get these kinds of engines with comfort options. So building this and doing the packaging, and I'll show you that in just a bit, of how we were able to get air conditioning and everything that we wanted to have in this car to mimic the L88 or the ZL1 option packages, but still package it like GM would have done it. This has a 6-speed manual transmission. It's a close ratio 6-speed transmission. It's a special dual disc clutch. There's so much stuff to talk about as far as the suspension goes. But there's a lot of creature comforts in this car too, which you wouldn't have been able to get from General Motors. This, we went ahead put a tilt column in the car and leather interior and restored it. But you can see it's a radio delete car. If you look at the console plate, you can see the six-speed quadrant marked on the console. You can even, if you look at where the cross flags are down there in the console, you can see it even has a ZL1 ident plate, which it completes the package if you're trying to make the ultimate spoof.
Now this car, to me, and I'm sure anybody else looking at it, this looks like it literally, it's so perfect, it looks like it literally just rolled out of the factory.
Well, that's what we try to do. We restore cars, and we try to, there are two ways to restore a car in the Corvette community. There are there are the people that believe that you should restore them just the way they came from the factory.
Okay.
But how I've always felt, I thought in 1969 when I got my first new one, we could improve this car.
Right.
So we over-restore the car. We take the packaging that the car had, we take the interior, but we try to get everything just right. We try to get the pleating in the seats and the batwing in the seats and the carpeting to fit right and the gauge packages to be just right.
Right.
We try to get all of the trim, I mean, down to the door strikers. I mean, we use stainless, which never happened on these cars, but it's nice to have that kind of bright work. These cars were never going to be a Mercedes, but they should have been a lot closer to what this car is than the way they came from GM. I'd like to show you the engine compartment.
Yes,
Can I do that?
absolutely. Out of curiosity, Tucker, how long did it take you from beginning to end to restore this car?
Well, this one we went a little bit long with this because some of the pieces that I was trying to source at the time to make it really look like the factory had built the car. There was probably more time spent trying to source some of the particular parts.
Okay.
But overall, I think we finished the whole car in about 14 months.
Wow.
And we're doing that along with all the cars that we get coming in day to day in our
right.
business.
So this isn't just this. You have other things as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then just another thing out of curiosity, what you did for the fenders here, how long did that take you?
Actually, once we got the body back on the frame and we figured out, because I really wanted the shape that the original distance kit had, but I wanted them to fit closer to the body, and the original distance kit was longer. The wheel openings were longer because they were making room for tire changes in race cars.
Okay.
So we kind of scaled it down, and then if you look at how the flares fit the doors, particularly here, this is the app. These cars only had about an inch of quarter panel down here, so trying to get these lines to be right and to make the flare not be too wide. I mean, it was all handmade. So we probably had a month in doing the four flares, and there were 3 of us that were working on them. But that's, mock-up design and doing the body work over and over again, because also I was trying at the time, I knew what color I wanted to do this car, but I didn't want too much of this to be, I didn't want this to be too soft, and I didn't want it to be too sharp. Gotcha. So we really painted over it. We made it a little bit sharper on the front, and it should be because of the peak of the fenders. We try to go to the old, Bill Mitchell was the guy that ran the design studio for General Motors when these cars were built. And his favorite philosophy about cars, Rivieras, all the cars that he loved, Corvettes, was that he wanted the fenders. He said, I'd like them peaks to look like a freshly pressed pair of dress pants.
I see it, yes.
And it's, so we take the original lines, and when we build them, we sharpen them up. These are sharper than they would have been, but with this color it works. So yeah, a lot of this was done to my taste.
Turns like a kitten.
A bad actor.
Oh wow. this your date night car when you take Liz out? Really?
Yeah, it's funny. Liz, she's not a car girl.
Okay,
She's
I
not
get
a
that.
car girl.
But
You know, I
there's
mean,
like,
you know, I fire these up and I built a garage next to the house.
Right.
It's a good sized garage, so I can go out there and play. And she'll walk out if I've run a car like this, particularly with this leaded 110 octane gas. And you're close, man, like that race gas again. You know, it's like, why do you open all the doors? You know, yeah, honey, you want to go for a ride in this? No, we'll take my car.
Aw. Aw.
She likes an SUV.
Well, I get that. I totally get that.
The same way.
I get that. I'm just trying not to say it on film.
I don't want to pick the Lamborghini. Let's pick the regular.
Yeah, on our first date, I was like, don't show up in those sports cars for me. Bring the truck.
I heard you did that.
What were we in when I was pregnant with Sophia and I literally could not get out of the car? He had to get me out.
360 Ferrari.
Couldn't get out.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's Liz's deal. You know, it's like, I don't feel safe in here.
Yeah.
It's too loud.
I love the noise. That's one thing I do love, especially like this. This was like, like that. But the bruises all over the thighs are not pleasant.
No.
It's not pleasant because that's what happens. Look, where is it? Yeah, look at that. Look at that right there. That's not pleasant. Bruises everywhere. It happens. But I love the sound.
I've got bruises all over me, but luckily I've got long pants and long sleeve shirt. You can't see them.
If my truck could make this noise, oh man, I'd be so happy. Yeah, we should do that. And we could just make the license plate grrr. I'd love it. Tucker, this was absolutely amazing. I am in love with your car. I'm sure everybody out there watching is also in love with your car. Now, we have so many other cars to do videos on. You are surrounded by gems here. Next one, right? Like this is the beast, right? But I hear you've got a tuxedo, right? Beast and tuxedo. So I think next one we should do on this car, right?
Okay. Well, this car is interesting. This is the same year. It's a 69 car. But instead of the animal, this one's got every comfort option. It was rare. They stopped painting the cars black in 69, so it's a thought to be a one of two 1969 Corvettes that is the exact opposite of the car you just saw.
I can't wait to dive into this one. We're going to have to come back soon because I'm sure everybody out there is going to want to see everything about this car as well.
It'll be another great episode. Stay
Absolutely.
tuned.
Thank you, Tucker.
You're welcome. Thank you.
By the way, Rick Tucker just got on social media. His name is right down below. Make sure you follow him. If you are a car person, trust me, you're going to want to follow. Stay tuned for more videos. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Magnesium Media as well. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.